Hi everybody, it is Julia here, and because it is shop update today, I thought I was going to share a little special video because we have a very special something in the shop, and you can see it here on screen. It is a very special set of 6 handmade watercolors that are decorated to look like pralines or chocolate pieces, and I just love them. So I thought, what better topic or subject to work with these colors than to make some Valentine cards. I mean, especially now when we are all very much at home and we're not allowed to see others, a card can mean so much. So I thought I was going to share 3 cards today using these watercolors, and the first one is very simple. We're going to start with a piece of paper, and I just on one side slapped on some water and then used different colors to let it bloom. Now take these techniques and ideas and use the watercolors you have. Don't feel like you need to use these. But here I have used the colors that I put into the set, and as you can see I take the watercolors that I have that are my own, so I don't because I need to photograph them later. So that's why the ones I'm using is not as pretty, but I think you will get the point. But I have set them down just right next to the ones so you can see. Yeah. Anyway, so on the left side I went in with all the pinks. We have Maiken, and we have Aster and Amortensia. Of course, Amortensia had to be in this kit or this set. I mean, it's the love potion. And then we have 3 browns. We have the one I'm using now, that is Sten, and that is a very cold, dark brown that granulates a lot. So that's very fun to work with. And the color I'm picking up now, that is Björn, which is a burnt umber. So that is a lot warmer, has a more of a yellow undertone, and is very rich in color. And then finally we finish off with Polyjuice, that is Caput Mortem. A very strong in mass tone, but granulates out a purpley with almost a hint of blue in the granulation. So that's really fun to work with when you do these kind of big wet washes, when you have sort of opaque colors that granulates a lot, like top of my head, like a chromium green oxide is one of those, like very strong opaque in its mass tone, but when you work with wet into wet, you can really get that granulation coming through, which is really fun. Okay, so the last thing, to add some texture to this, I'm just going to take Aster and do some splashes on top here. And I was very sad to realize that the brush I'm using here is one of those, you know, my go-to. The what do you call it, like the metal part is like loose, it's wiggling, and it completely threw me off. And then on the brown side I'm going to go in with Maiken, and Maiken is a very light pink pearly color. So while that is drying, I'm going to make a card base, and I have a little drawer here where I have watercolor pieces that are just offcuts, and I have just dipped into that. So that's really good. So what I did here is I just folded it in half and taped it down so it will lay flat, and I will also get that sort of nice clean edge around it. And what I'm wanting to do is I have a very nice light pink browny color as a base, and this will be my background to the card that we're going to make. So I'm just adding the color. I'm trying to get it pretty smooth. The color that I'm using, or the paper, is a hot press paper, which I don't like. I don't like hot press paper, which is why it was in the drawer. But it turned out really great, so that's good. So I'm doing that. Also, by the way, the palette I'm using is from Caitlin. It will be linked down below. I think I have linked it, I don't know how many studio vlogs now, but it is just a really great little palette, and it is just so cute. So when that layer has dried, I'm going to go in with Maiken. I just want to have a little bit of texture. I'm a big fan of stripes, and I just felt like Maiken would give me a little bit of shimmer and shine without overpowering. I mean, it is just a background. So here you can see how that is when we're done. So we're going back to that paper that we made with just the colors, and I'm using a white pen here. It is a Pentel pen, and to be fair, this was not the best one. If you have one of those jelly roll pens, I should totally have used that one, but I really wanted to try this one out, and I had to go over each line several times. In the end, it doesn't really matter, but I made some flowers on the pink paper and some leaves on the more brown paper, and then I'm just going to cut that out. And you don't need to be extremely fussy with this if you don't cut out exactly to the line. It's kind of, I didn't do that. I like the charm of it being. But if you are very particular that you need to have it to the line, then go in with that whatever pen you're using and fix the lines after. Now I'm going to make this into a little pocket or an envelope, and I'm just going to use one of these little brown paper bags. If you have ordered paints from the shop, you would normally get the paints in one of these. So if you feel like you have a ton of those and you don't know what to use them, well, here you can use them to make a little card. And what I'm doing here is I'm just going to fill this with the flowers and the leaves that we have cut out. And I'm just using a little bit of foam pop dots just to pop them out, getting some dimension. It's a bit more fun. It feels a little bit like the flowers will just like cascade through it. A tip when doing something like this is starting with the biggest elements first. It is just a lot easier to get a nice balance and to sort of piece the puzzle, piece the pieces together, and getting like a nice balance of it if you start with the biggest one. That is something from my scrapbooking days that I've learned, and I'm very happy I learned that. So yeah, I'm just going to go and sort of scatter and getting all of those about. And what is really fun here is that this card, or this the thought of this card is that you change out the color and you have a card design that can fit anybody at any time, really. I mean, flowers, you typically sunflowers, and I just feel like that is something very, very fun to do. And obviously if you have a cutting machine or an electronic cutting machine, then just slab on the paint or the color on the paper and then just cut it out. But here it was really fun. As the last finishing touch, I'm going to go in with this pen. I have this just ballpoint pen that has sort of like a reddy violety color, and I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of definition to the centers of the flowers and to the leaves, and a little bit of leaves like poking through. And I think that is really fun. We have so much dimension going on here. I mean, we have the watercolor background, we have the envelope, and then all of the flowers are sticking up, and then we have something that is drawn on. I just really enjoy all of those things coming together, keeping it but not being overwhelming because it is all the same color scheme. I just feel like this is really fun, and I'm very happy with it. So yeah, and it didn't take that long. The longest thing is just waiting for the different elements to dry, and take some lunch or go out for a walk or just finish it the next day, So that's one card that I made, and I'm really happy with it. I hope you like it too. And now that we feel like, this is a good card, and now you feel like that wasn't so hard and it was pretty fun. Let's shall we do another one? Yeah, I think we should do another one. And here you can definitely see all those sparkles coming through, and I just feel like having Maiken in the background just looks so pretty. Now here I made a definite blunder. I don't know what happened. The camera did not record. What was that? But I'm going to share it with you anyway. So here I have a watercolor paper. It is actually grey tone from Buckingford. I folded that in half and draw a heart on it, and I'm just filling in the heart with flower shapes using all of the different colors and trying to get in a lot of different trying to get the different tones, so they are not, I don't have all of the bright pink next to each other. I have a little bit of brown, and then I have some lighter and then some darker, and I'm just going to go through, fill out the shape as much as I can. And if you feel like painting flowers is difficult, or something that you're like, I'm not too sure about that, you can do this with just with the same technique that we did before. On the background, just do a nice wash of color, adding in some pattern. Or if you feel like, I'm not sure about flowers, but I would really like to learn, I highly recommend Skillshare. I just recently took a class about painting loose watercolor flowers by Anna Victoria. I can link that down below, and I highly recommend that. She had some really great tips on sort of adding how can I say it? But a lot of adding into the composition of the flowers. I feel like the flowers element that she taught was stuff that I knew, but she had some really good points on how to sort of expand the design or on the composition of the sort of bouquet, if you will. So, and it's a very nice, easy to follow course. So if you feel like I'm not really sure, she describes it very, very nice to understand, and I highly recommend that if you're interested. So here we have done that. The heart is full. I'm going to go back with my ballpoint pen ballpoint pen here, and adding in a little bit more like doodly scribbly design. That is something I've been, when you do this kind of thing, I think it's kind of nice to say, these are the colors, these are the materials I'm going to use. And not just do you get very cohesive looking cards or paintings or journal spreads or whatever you're going to do, but you also get into sort of, when you're done with this and you think, okay, what do I do now? But then you have that because you have done it on the other cards. I'm like, oh yeah, I can go in with that pen, and I can go in with a white gel pen or something. So there is some a really nice sort of sheet step that you can sort of repeat different steps from different processes. So now I'm just cutting out, and because I've made that sort of little guide for myself, have that completely covered, and I just really like it. I think it's very fun. You get a lot of design or a lot of pattern and elements, but it's a very nice, easy card to make, and it's very easy to mail out, and it doesn't have all of those stuff jumping out at you. Okay, so the last card we're going to make with these colors are a long and narrow, and that is because when I folded the paper, it turned out long and narrow. That's the beauty of rummaging through the scrap paper drawer. But yeah, I've drawn out a little landscape. I'm going to use the candle here, and because that is wax, the watercolor will resist, it won't lay it down. So that is just one way to preserve the white. Now this is grey toned watercolor paper, but in contrast to everything else, it will appear white or as a highlight. What I want to do here is have a landscape and sort of having the moon just sort of shining and having quite a lonely little scene. So yeah, I'm going to mix up a few colors here, and what I want to have is a pretty dark color, but not the darkest. So I'm using Aster, I'm mixing in a little bit of Björn, and then also Sten. So like I said before, Sten is a very granulating color, and now I'm going to start by working on the ground, and that I love using Sten for that because you really get the texture, and especially when it comes to the mountain, I'm laying down that wash that I mixed up, but then I also want to have a little bit more dynamic shape to it, so I'm going in with just Sten on the shadows, and that really looks like stone. I mean, sten in Swedish is stone, and I just really love how that is coming out. And I mean, you can sit and fiddle and do layer after layer, but there's something very cool about watercolor with just a wash and how much life you can get out of that. Also, what I have tried to create is a lake here, which I used the candle to sort of have the highlights that the moon is reflecting on the lake. I'm going to use just Aster as the sky, and that is because it is a translucent color or transparent color, but it's very, very strong. It's mass tone, so that's why I chose to do that. And all of the other colors are mixed, so this is a way I can get like a strong color that is dark, but that is sort of clean. The other ones I have mixed a lot, so they are a little bit warmer, a little bit dirtier, more like, you know, the earth, dirt. I mean, the house is on ground, so I just wanted to have that contrast of the sky and then the earth. Yeah. I also used the brush with that is very damp, so not dry but pretty damp, to add to remove some color around the moon, to create some highlights also in the sky. And as long as the paper is still a little bit damp, you can go in with a damp brush and sort of lift up the color so you can get some of those highlights back. With another mix, I have added in a little bit of polyjuice. I just call it poly when I'm working, but yeah, polyjuice with that aster mix to get a little bit of darkness, so I can go in and add some trees to get them to stand out a bit. And other than that, I've tried to keep it pretty simple. I want it to read pretty clearly, which is a little bit of a struggle because we don't have a very, very dark color in this set, and even the browns, it won't go very, very dark. But something that I really liked about this, I went in with mica, that pearly color, around the moon, and then also as highlights. That is just amazing. Depending on how the light hits the card, you can totally see the different highlights in the trees and on the mountains. And here I also tried to go in with a little bit of a dry brush technique, especially on the mountains. So not too much color on the brush and not too much water, and then just use the body of the bristles to swipe over, and that will make a really cool effect, that you don't cover the whole thing, but you get the high points of the paper. So that is something I highly recommend. It's very fun. So yeah. So I'm really happy with this little painting, and the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of white stars because I like stars, and then I'm going to go in with that pen again to add in just a little bit definition so that the trees and the house are a bit easier to read. And then I'm just going to use my letter stamps here to add in a message, and I'm just going to keep it very simple on this one so that the focus is on that lonely house, and it's just going to say missing you. So I'm just thinking about all the people I miss. I mean, most of my friends and family are very, very close, and it feels very odd not to see them. So I think I might send a few of these cards out to them. And I'm just going in with a brush pen here so that I get a little bit of variation from the stamping and then from the other word, and then finishing off with a little heart. So here you can see the high points on the mountains and how beautiful Mikan is as a highlight. I'm really happy with this card. Yeah. Okay, as a bonus card, we have to have something bonus. We're going to use these stickers that are released today, and they are called the bonbons. So they look like little pralines, chocolate pieces. I was kind of in the mood for chocolate when I painted them. But I thought I was going to show a really simple trick with stickers that doesn't matter what stickers, but I'm going to show you mine because we're going to do something with them. And that is, if you have stickers that are on pretty thin paper, like mine are, they are printed on very thin paper, perfect for the planner or stuff like that. But if you want to have them a bit more heft to them, then just stick them onto a heavier piece of paper. I have just a scrap piece of watercolor paper here, but you can use a cereal box or something and then cut them out. So I'm going to go with a very typical quote here, and I'm going to stamp out that sentiment on the paper, and I'm using that grey tone Buckingford paper again because I really like it. So I'm stamping, life is like a box of chocolate. And once again, I'm using my brush pen here, going very slowly to write out chocolate, just to get a little bit of different definitions of the different words. And I'm going to write you down here in this corner because I started with a quote in the top left and I want to finish it in the bottom right. And I did mess up writing, you can see there next to you, it says C. It was not supposed to say C, it was supposed to say is. So, life is like a box of chocolate. My favorite piece is you. So I just took one of the chocolate pieces and covered that up. Ta-da! To finish this off, I need some splatters because I love splatters, and I'm using Amortensia to do that because Amortensia just makes me happy. So yeah, that is my 4 Valentine Days cards that I think are perfect to send anytime, honestly, especially now when we are locked up and we're not allowed to see each other and we are just missing people. I think anybody would be very happy to know that you're thinking so much of them that you want to send them a card. Anyway, if you're interested in the stickers or the watercolors or anything, just head down to the link. There is a link to the Etsy shop where you can get all of them. And just thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, and that I will see you tomorrow for a studio vlog.